The year was 1992. The American heartland, a place where folks believed in hard work and neighbor helping neighbor, was about to become a hunting ground. From April to May of that year, a shadow fell across the Midwest. A killer was on the move, preying on innocent lives along the vast stretch of Interstate 70. He came to be known as the I-70 killer, a phantom who vanished as quickly as he appeared, leaving behind a trail of sorrow and unanswered questions. The victims weren't random targets, they were carefully chosen, each murder bearing the chilling signature of the same ruthless hand. The I-70 killer wasn't some force of nature, he was a man, flesh and blood, who walked among us. Every truck stop, every gas station, every diner along I-70 became a potential crime scene. The highway, once a symbol of freedom and adventure, had become a ribbon of dread, winding its way through the heartland. The I-70 killer's reign of terror began on April 8, 1992 in Indianapolis, Indiana. His first victim was 25-year-old Robin Fuldauer. Robin worked at a shoe store, Payless Shoe Source, just off the interstate. She was young, full of life, and had her whole future ahead of her. But that future was stolen in a brutal instant. The killer entered the store, likely posing as a customer, and shot Robin in the back of the head. Just like that, her light was extinguished. 6 days later, the killer struck again, this time in Wichita, Kansas. His victim was 57-year-old Sarah Blessing, a kind-hearted woman who managed a small craft store. She was known for her warm smile and her love of knitting. The killer entered her store, likely posing as a customer, and shot her in the back of the head. The brutality was the same, the cold-blooded efficiency chilling. On April 27, 1992, the killing spree continued in Terre Haute, Indiana. Michael McCown, a 40-year-old man who worked at a ceramic shop, became the killer's third victim. Michael was a hard worker, a devoted husband and father. He was simply trying to make a living, just like the others. The killer entered the shop, likely posing as a customer, and shot Michael in the back of the head. The pattern was becoming terrifyingly clear. The I-70 killer's fourth victim was 24-year-old Patricia Magers. Patricia worked at a video rental store, another target of opportunity along the interstate. She was a bright young woman with a love for movies and a contagious laugh. On May 3, 1992, the killer entered the store, likely posing as a customer, and shot Patricia in the back of the head. Just 3 days later, on May 6, 1992, the killer claimed his fifth victim. Nancy Kitzmiller, a 40-year-old woman who worked at a bridal shop, was found dead inside the store. The killer had entered the store, likely posing as a customer, and shot Nancy in the back of the head. The I-70 killer's sixth and final known victim was 21-year-old Casey Stopping. Casey was a clerk at a convenience store in Raytown, Missouri. He was a young man with a bright future working his way through college. On May 7, 1992, the killer entered the store, likely posing as a customer, and shot Casey in the back of the head. The reign of terror that had begun just 29 days earlier had come to an end, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives in a community forever scarred. The I-70 killer case was a logistical nightmare from the start. We were dealing with multiple crime scenes, spanning 3 states. That meant coordinating with different police departments, each with their own way of doing things. Evidence was scarce. The killer was a ghost, moving silently and leaving little trace of his presence. There were no signs of forced entry, no witnesses who could provide a clear description. It was as if he materialized out of thin air, committed his heinous acts, and then vanished without a trace. We had a few leads, but they all seemed to evaporate like mist in the morning sun. There was talk of a possible connection to the killings of 3 women in Texas in 1991. The victims in Texas were all shot with a .22 caliber handgun, just like the I-70 killer's victims. Section 4. Shadows of Doubt. Potential suspects emerge. Over the years, we've looked at our fair share of suspects in the I-70 killer case. Every tip, every whisper, every hunch, we followed it to the end, hoping it would lead us to the monster who committed these heinous acts. But time and again we came up empty. One of the most promising leads came early on in the investigation. A composite sketch of the suspect based on witness descriptions was circulated nationwide. The sketch showed a white male in his late 20s or early 30s, with a stocky build and a mustache. The sketch generated hundreds of tips, but none of them panned out. Another suspect who caught our attention was a man named Herb Baumeister. Baumeister was a wealthy businessman from Indiana who was later linked to the deaths of several men whose remains were found on his property. Baumeister fit the profile of the I-70 killer in some ways. He was known to frequent the areas where the murders took place, and he had a history of violence against men. But Baumeister committed suicide in 1996, before we could question him about the I-70 killings. Section 5. Beyond the Interstate, the I-70 killer's wider web. As we dug deeper into the I-70 killer case, we began to uncover potential links to other unsolved crimes across the country. It's a chilling thought, but one we couldn't ignore. Was it possible that the I-70 killer's reign of terror extended far beyond that lonely stretch of highway? One case that caught our attention was the murder of 19-year-old Mary Ann Glasscock. Mary Ann was found dead in a ditch near Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, on June 21, 1991. She had been shot in the head, execution style, just like the I-70 killer's victims. Fort Leonard Wood is located just a short drive from Interstate 44, which runs parallel to I-70. Could this be our killer's handiwork? Another possible connection emerged in Texas. 3 women, Vicky Alvarado, Deborah Jackson, and Audrey Terrell, were found shot to death in their workplaces in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in 1991. The victims and the modus operandi bore striking similarities to the I-70 killer's crimes. Section 6. A cold case endures. The I-70 killer in 2025. It's 2025 and the I-70 killer case remains unsolved. The file is still open, but the trail has long since gone cold. Despite the passage of time, we haven't given up hope. Advances in DNA technology offer a glimmer of hope in this and other cold cases. We're currently re-examining all the evidence, hoping to find a trace of the killer's DNA that might lead us to his door. The families of the victims deserve justice. Section 7. A plea for justice. A hope for resolution. The I-70 killer case is a stark reminder that evil can lurk in the most unexpected places, even along the sun-drenched highways of the American heartland. It's a case that has haunted me for years, a case that I'll never forget. To the families of the victims, I want to say this. We haven't forgotten about your loved ones. We haven't given up. We're still fighting for justice, and we won't rest until the I-70 killer is brought to justice. I believe that someone, somewhere, knows something that could help us crack this case wide open. Maybe you remember seeing something unusual along I-70 back in 1992. If you have any information, no matter how insignificant you think it might be, please come forward.